45 minutes. Okay. Just a quote from Alexander Solzhenitsyn. He said, the simple step of a simple, courageous man is to not take part in the lie, not to support deceit. This is the simple step of a simple, courageous man. Not to take part in the lie and not to support deceit. Let the lie come into the world. If it has to come, let it come. Even dominate the world. If it has to happen, let it dominate the world, but not through me. That means I will not become party to that happening.
Very good afternoon to all. I think we will begin now. So thank you so much for joining today's talk by the Department of Architecture, School of Planning and Architecture, New Delhi, on professional ethics for architects in the workplace. To start with, we have Professor Dr. Anil Dewan, who will start this meeting today. So you're on mute, sir.
Very good afternoon, Raja Singh. Am I audible now?
Yes, sir. Yes, absolutely.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm honored and privileged to have you all here with us today. And this is a talk on professional ethics for architects. So first of all, I will thank ISAC for being our partners. We've signed an MOU with them and they are going to have a very long association with us. I'm going to give you an introduction of School of Planning and Architecture, New Delhi. So I am professor and head of the Department of Architecture here. So the SPA started in 1941 as a Department of Architecture of the Delhi Polytechnic at the Kashmiri Gate campus. So from there, it became Delhi College of Engineering, and we people came here and joined the planning school, and we became School of Planning and Architecture, New Delhi. And now we have two undergraduate departments, undergraduation in planning and undergraduate department of architecture. We have 10 postgraduate departments. So in Masters of Architecture, we have urban design, landscape architecture, we have architectural conservation, industrial design. We have a course in building engineering and management, and we have 5 planning disciplines: transport planning, regional planning, urban planning, and physical planning. So now we have PhD programs, master's programs, undergraduate programs, and with the new education policy 2020, we could offer certificate programs, postgraduate diplomas, diploma courses, degree courses, honors courses, integrated PhD programs, integrated master's programs, and short-term certificate courses. So the limitations are not there. There could be endless possibilities of MOUs, short-term courses on specialty niche areas like cybersecurity, like smart cities, and so many things we could start. So this is all I want to say about the school. The school has far too many PhD scholars now, more than 100, and there are so many more who want to join our programs. So over to Raja Singh, and I'm very grateful for organizing this and having me here. Thank you very much.
Right. So now, thank you so much, Professor Dr. Anil Dewan. Now I'm going to introduce the speaker. I first of all welcome our speaker, Group Captain P. Anand Naidu, and I will introduce him. Group Captain Anand Naidu is the founder director of Clean Exit, which is a workplace ethics training and rating platform for students and working professionals. Clean Exit is an incubation of information sharing and analysis center, which is India's leading non-profit advancing professional ethics and cybersecurity, where he serves as a director. He is an adjunct professor at the Center for Aerospace and Defense Laws, Nalsa University, teaching aviation and technology laws. He is also a member of the Quality Council of India. Group Captain Naidu served the Indian Air Force for over 30 years, where he was the director personnel of a very large organization. He later served Prasar Bharati as an additional director general. He is a practitioner with Akash Law firm in New Delhi. We thank you, sir, for joining us today. The stage is yours, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. First of all, to Professor Dr. Devan. He mentioned about the MOU. He mentioned about the scope of things that can happen as far as SPA is concerned. It's one of the premier institutions, and we are ISAC. On behalf of ISAC, we are very, very happy to have collaborated with SPA in a very, very small segment of activity, that is the cyber security and cyber protection, and of course the professional ethics part. As far as the professional ethics at workplace is concerned, while the professional conduct rules for the architects are in place, there are some areas which cannot be codified, cannot be openly mentioned. Those are the areas that the professional ethics at workplace, as far as the clean exit is concerned, we can touch upon. And during next about 40 minutes, I will try and explain those issues and also discuss, and thereafter, of course, if there are any questions, we will answer those questions. Thank you very much, Raja Singh, for that kind introduction. I will just give me a minute. I will share my presentation. In the meantime, yes, we are we feel very privileged to be part of the SPA's ambit of operations that are there. Otherwise, for an organization like SPA to collaborate, it's a matter of immense pride for us. Okay, thank you very much, the Professor Devan, for being with us. And just 1 second, give me. I will just share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Not yet, sir.
No?
Yes, now, sir. Now, sir. Yes, sir.
Now you can see.
Thank you.
Okay, it's visible now, and I'm audible.
Yes, sir, you're audible and it's visible.
Thank you very much. I will switch off my video so that it doesn't consume the net space. So the question that in fact Professor Devan was also saying, am I an architect? No, I'm not an architect. Do I speak? What will I speak to the architects and budding architects and future architects? Yes, there are many things that we can speak together. And one issue that is bugging the whole world as far as the workplaces are concerned is the professional ethics. For some reason, in Indian context at least, for some time now, the educational system did not have ethics being taught as part of the curriculum. There are minority schools which have on their own pursued teaching the ethics at in the schools, but as a curriculum we did not have. Earlier was long ago, there used to be moral education and the joint family system that we were known for. The Indian family institution was known for. The joint family system has collapsed, resulting into nuclear families, and in fact not nuclear families, sub-nuclear families. It has become much more nuclearized. With corona, it has become completely cubicalized, completely there are cubicles made within the rooms so that people are able to read, people are able to study, people are able to work from home, all that within the same room or same house. So compartmentalization to the extreme is taking place. When such compartmentalization is taking place, how do the ethics as a culture get passed on from generations to generation, which used to be the case? One, written part, the codification. The other part is how do we pass on from generation to generation? That has become a big problem. We are seeing massive turmoil in many societies across the world because the ethics part, whether it is professional or personal ethics, there are major issues. The institution of family is collapsing across the world because now as the conflicting interests of the individuals are focused on, obviously the common interests are not given that importance. We hope that this trend is reversed. In fact, when we went to the AICTE, Chairman AICTE, with a proposal for cybersecurity training offerings, that was when he mentioned that the national leadership, when I say national leadership, the Prime Minister himself, Honorable Prime Minister, has on more than a couple of occasions has told spoken to the Professor Anil Sahasrabudhe, the chairman AICTE, expressing his concern on the ethics issues, because obviously the national leadership, whenever the leaders, whenever they traveled abroad, the international community of leaders, they would express their absolute appreciation as far as our workforce is concerned, absolute appreciation as far as our knowledge levels, skill sets of our people are concerned, Indians are concerned. But when it comes to the ethics, there are concerns, and we know for sure that there are major concerns. Now, architects are part of the same very society, the same very country, same very organizations many times are working together. We are all working together sometimes in the same organizations. You may be, as architects, you may be, creating the architectural designs and things like that. But finally, we are all going to work together. We're going to sit together. We're going to live together. These are all things that are going to be impacted if the ethical conduct is missing, if the ethical conduct is found wanting. So that is where, since we are all part of the same community, that is one part. The other part is, while the conduct rules are there for the architects, 1989 conduct rules are there, and the CCS conduct rules, that is Civil Service, Central Civil Services Conduct Rules 1964, apply to the architects. Very interesting aspect, that is, I do not know how much of its impact is understood by the architects. The Central Civil Services Conduct Rules are made for the Central Civil Services. By applying the Central Civil Services Conduct Rules to the architects, the architects are given a higher pedestal than any other professional, in my view, because it's all architects are not government employees, but you are being subject to the conduct rules which are applicable to the central government employees, central civil servants. The central civil servants, by the way, are employed under Article 309 of Constitution of India. They have certain protections. They have certain, strengths which emanate from the constitutional mandate under Section 3, Article 309. Now, the employees are employed under those provisions, and when a non-government employee is subject to the conduct rules which are part and applicable to the Central Civil Services personnel or a body of people, just understand that your status is elevated from the ordinary to the extraordinary. You may not become automatically government servant per se, but anything? Someone is saying something? Okay, so that is one part. The other part is, of course, the conduct rules are there separately. 1989, they have brought the conduct rules and they have listed out. But very interestingly, very short conduct rules, where 2.5 pages altogether. Very few sections. That way, I think very nice, short, crisp conduct rules are there. But if that is so, then why should we speak about the professional ethics at workplace? That's what we will discuss in the next about 45 minutes. Okay. Just a quote from Alexander Solzhenitsyn. He said, the simple step of a simple, courageous man is to not take part in the lie, not to support deceit. This is the simple step of a simple, courageous man. Not to take part in the lie and not to support deceit. Let the lie come into the world, if it has to come, let it come. Even dominate the world if it has to happen, let it dominate the world, but not through me. That means I will not become party to that happening. This is what he said, and how apt it is. Let me, each individual, if he thinks and acts in a manner that he will not be party to that happening, the society and the world is that much better place. Okay. Now, why ethics for architects? I think all of us agree. I just forgot to mention one small issue, that is, for the engineers. I mean, architects are considered above engineers because they study one more year, and there are many other differences. I cannot go on differentiating between an ordinary engineering and an ordinary architect. I will not do that. I will not venture into it because that's not my specialization. But all engineers and architects, when their degrees are to be recognized internationally, as per Washington Accord, they are supposed to be taught professional ethics, which is, of course, for architects, it is taught in the final year. So professional ethics are supposed to be taught at par with the core subjects. Like I said earlier, in the schools and the intermediate stage, we were not taught ethics. So in at least graduation, they should be taught. That is one. So it's being taught in the end of the bachelor degree. It's being taught. Okay. And professional conduct rules, I have already mentioned about it. But there are many issues that do not get codified. It's not easy to codify all those issues. Two, there are many rules and regulations that come about. There are laws that are made, like for example, I tell you, POSH laws, prevention of sexual harassment at workplace. Now, while that may not be codified as part of the conduct rules for the architects under the 89 rules, but they are all applicable to all of us, all Indians, to all Indians. If anything goes wrong as far as the gender issues are concerned at workplace, the POSH laws are applicable. Now, the things like that. Similarly, there are conflict of interest situations that may not get reflected in the rules. Those are the issues that can be explained. There are many issues which lead to fraud. Aggrandizement is resulting in frauds at various places. We will discuss some examples also as we go by. Those are the things that I thought we will touch upon, and these are the core issues that we deal with in the clean exit. Okay, a better understanding of why good people make bad ethical decisions. No, bad ethical decisions may not mean bad legal decisions, may not mean bad, in fact, they may mean good financial decisions for the companies. Will enable you a better understanding of why good people make bad ethical decisions, will enable you to protect yourself and your organization against decisions that can have lasting adverse impact. Read adverse for only impact. Okay, so it's very essential that we must understand why good people make bad ethical decisions, and that means, does the decisions are determined whether it has ethical or unethical based on the situations? That is the question that has to be understood by all of us. Okay, now conduct rules, as I mentioned to you, nicely laid down, short, crisp rules, but they also say, okay, subject to the provisions of the Central Civil Services Conduct Rule, that is the beginning, and of course, or otherwise also any similar rules applicable. In this case, 89 rules we will talk. There is a list. Okay, but in that list, there are many things that I said cannot be codified and have not been codified because it will become too long. They cannot just do that. Okay, now is there a way, if they are not codified, is there a way that these things can be learned? Is there a need, first of all, to learn those things? That's the first question. Is there a need? Second question is there a way? If there is a need, of course, we have to find a way. Now that is where I come from. Now, why we need to discuss those things? Now, culture and an environment of ethics at workplace is always a long drawn process. Suddenly, overnight, you do not create a culture of ethical workplace and a work environment. Tatas are known for ethics at workplace, their organizations. It has not happened overnight. They built that image over a period of time. Wipro, for example, is, by the way, in the International Global Fraud Survey and the Transparency International ratings as far as the ethical workplaces are concerned in India, there are only 2 companies which are reflected amongst the top 100, and they are also in the second half of the top 100. And those 2 companies are Tata Steel and Wipro. These are the only 2 companies which are reflected and which have made the cut to be counted against the top 100 in the second half of the 100 as far as the ethical work environment is concerned. Rest of the companies, nowhere they are mentioned. Our global fraud survey reports are very pathetically reflecting our standard. We have so many cases, whether it is Satyam Computers, whether it is ICICI Bank, whether it is Yes Bank, whether it is Cognizant, trying to buy some land in Chennai. You follow the news, and there are so many, and it's all not because people are not working hard, people are not intelligent, people are not smart, people are not skillful, people are not knowledgeable. Our employees are supposed to be the best. Recently, there was a survey conducted in Asia, and that survey has concluded that Indians can corrupt anyone in Asia. Now, that's not a very good rating to have, very good number one position to have. Sadly, it reflects very poorly on us, and especially an aspiring nation, aspirational, economic growth, aspirational technological growth, aspirational manufacturing, and the self-reliant nation that we want to be. If these things have to happen, ethics have to be part of it. I'll just touch upon one or two examples where our northern neighbor. I mean, you are architects, you will all understand this better. There is a huge organization in China which has reported that there are some issues and ethical issues with that, and its impact is likely to be on the whole of the world as far as the real estate is concerned. I'm sure all of you have read about it or known about it. So just imagine why it has happened. Unethical practices. Recently, the Chinese government, for whatever reason, has taken over some, the taxi companies like Ola and Uber. There are some companies in their cities. They have taken over those companies. Recently, Chinese government has fined many big companies. Okay, and those include the biggest of them. Okay, for unethical practices and tax evasion. They have jailed a senior minister last year for unethical practices. Now, even a behemoth and a major economy who is like Colossus, even that country is now addressing the issues that actually impact the ethical practices in business and workplaces. Everyone now has to worry about it because sustainability in business depends and is heavily dependent on the ethical practices. Not leave alone survival. I'm talking about sustainability. Today, by practicing unethical practices, it is possible that one may gain some benefit, quick buck they may be able to make, but if it has to sustain, if the business has to sustain ethical practices, whether it is to deal with environment when we are doing our work, architects are, each aspect of their work actually impacts the environment. Each aspect. Design, you design anything, you are going to change the nature from what it is, change the earth from what it is, change the airflow from what it is, change the light reflection from what it is. Any structure you create, whether you create an underground structure or an overground structure, you create a multi-storied building or a attachment, whatever you create is going to change the environment and the ecosystem that existed previously at that location. Now, when you are going to change something which has existed for so long in a particular manner, there is a definite responsibility thrust on you to make sure that you do not impact that too much. That's an ethical issue. That's an ethical issue. Our responsibility towards protecting the nature, protecting the mother earth, protecting the elements that make us live better. Now, if we do not take care, say for example, in a city like Delhi, where the growth has taken place in like maddeningly, what has happened? We have had terrible times till Corona came, and the dust pollution and the air pollution has come down because of Corona. People were at one level, people were happy that thank God Corona has come, otherwise the air pollution would have gone further. Now, this responsibility towards protecting the environment, that's very big ethical issue that is there. Now, when we want to create an environment of ethics or ethical culture in an organization, it doesn't happen with one person. Like I said, it's over a period of time. One has to really work towards it, create structures, create processes, create and use technologies which are going to protect the environment and build the environment to be ethical, including technologies. Why not? I mean, say for example, the CCTV technologies can be, they are being used left, right, and center for unethical practices, unethical businesses. So even technology, I'm talking about the lowest level. There are very many things. For example, there was an article in the news that the Boeing 737 Max aircraft, which had some difficulty in terms of accidents, the aircraft was not completely ready in terms of protection in security measures, and because of which probably the aircraft was pushed a little early, because of which it is said, I mean, it's reported, we do not know whether it is true or not, but I cannot say it is false also. So ethical issues again, the decision to take it off block, to push the aircraft off block at the very beginning, because there is a deadline, there is a schedule. Now that's an ethical dilemma. Okay, we have the top functionary of ICICI Bank, who was party or who was part of every important international delegation going from India, or any and every important international delegation that came to India relating to the financial matters. Such a person is in the dock because of conflict of interest. Now this is something which has to stop at some stage. That's what we are saying. It has to come down, top down. But it does not mean that bottom is not involved at all. No, the cultural and the corruption practices followed by some companies, if they do not get percolated, if they want ethical culture, the top may be clean, but if they do not reflect that clean attitude, approach, and environment down below, if it does not percolate, it will create problems. It will create problems for architects. If, say for example, I mean, most of the architectural firms, of course, we have today, we have massive MNCs as architectural firms. Earlier, of course, they were all mom and dad company kind of companies where you had just firms which were going from one generation to the other generation, like lawyers, like earlier doctors also sometimes, Ayurvedic doctors even now. So in that condition, it's different. But otherwise, when you have companies which are growing big, if it is not passed on, similarly, you have, say for example, 30, 40, 20 associates, or 3 associates, 1 associate, you have a junior who has just joined. If your ethical culture is not explained and he is not imbibing the values that you carry as your tagline or your reputation, he is going to cause damage to you. He is going to cause damage to you. How? I'll tell you. Now, when a client comes to the architectural firm for a particular work, he is coming because of the goodwill and the reputation of the architect and the firm. The firm has a goodwill, because of that he comes. But if the newly recruited associate has not understood the ethical culture of that organization and he has not assimilated that, he will indulge in unethical practices. Finally, the client will not be happy. The client will definitely speak it out, and he will speak to his friends, he will speak to many of them, and he will say, no, don't go to him. He is not a good, the firm is not a good firm. They have not done a good job. Because the architects cannot advertise like lawyers. Architects cannot create own advertisements openly. So the advertisement and the publicity always is through word of mouth. When word of mouth publicity is the main source of our advertisement, that word has to be positive word. If we are creating an environment where there is negative word spreading around on us, then the damage is actually happening. That's where top down, but include everyone in the process. Include everyone in the process. Persistence, yes, it is not that you have set one nice code of conduct rules you have made and left it to be read by everyone when he enters the office, and when he goes out of the office, it is scrolled on big scrolls. No, it doesn't work like that. It has to be assimilated by the people, and we have to persist with the processes which are clean processes. We have to persist. That's what it is. Change management, ladies and gentlemen, this is very essential, especially from time to time, especially when there are disruptive technologies that are coming, like when CAD, CAM, design, the CAD, computer aided design came, computer aided manufacturing came. There was a lot of disruption in the way people thought, especially for architects. CAD thing had made so much of difference in their work. Whole lot of things have undergone sudden change. Suddenly, the human involvement has come down in designing things, in designing structures, in designing subsystems of a system or a process or a big structure. If there is a huge building that is supposed to be created, with the aid of the CAD designing, people could produce designs like this. But there are typicalities that need to be catered for. There are specifics that need to be catered for, small minor things that actually will make a lot of difference in life for the person who is using that structure. Now the CAD thing is not going to understand all those things. Now whenever there is a change management has to be very very practically implemented, otherwise it will become very difficult. That is where ethics will stand by you. That's where the foundation of ethics on which your firm, your practice or your whole reputation is built, that will determine how you are actually making that change management happen. Okay, just and fair conduct in dealings. Just remember this is what is ethics. It's all about being just and fair in your conducts and dealings. Okay, in your conduct and dealings. Okay, now conflict of interest we have just touched upon. I've told you the conflict of interest in case of S-Bank. The S-Bank, the chairman, CMD, who nurtured the S-Bank like his own baby from the very birth, and he took it to such a fantastic level, and he is in jail today. Conflict of interest. ICICI Bank, we mentioned, that person was awarded by President Padma Awards. I mean, how many people get Padma Awards? Especially when you are a government employee, it is very difficult to get Padma Award. Although that person was not a government employee, but an employee. For an employee, it's very difficult because mostly it is it's given for work of an impacting nature for this society at large. That's where it is. If you are a job holder, it is mentioned that okay, you are doing a job, it's okay, that you are getting paid. Obviously, when you are at a senior level, you are getting paid much heavier pay salaries and things like that. So it's looked like that. But if you have received a Padma Award, that means you are something big, and then you get into conflict of interest, the problems. I'll tell you something very interesting. There is one MNC in Chennai. The boss is from US, and they wanted to acquire some land to construct a own building they wanted to own. Instead of hired building, they wanted to have their own building. And they said, okay, fine, we will construct a building. When they wanted to construct a building, they wanted to buy land there, then the land cost was X amount. So the number 2 person in that company in Chennai branch was an Indian and a localite. So he went to the boss and said, why do you want to pay so much? I have a lot of connects and contacts. I will get you land at a very cheap price. So the top man reported to his bosses saying, hey guys, here is a very clueful man, a resourceful person I have. He says he can get the land at a very cheaper price. So from there, the advice came promptly, don't indulge in such dealings. It can create problems for us. Okay, fine. This was conveyed. The number 2 was not very happy. He said nothing doing. He will persist. He persisted, and he introduced this Chennai head to many top people, where he got convinced. He got carried away. He agreed for it. Finally, they entered into a land deal where they got land at a very, very cheap rates. Thereafter, of course, the whole dealing hit the media. And when it hit the media, obviously nothing happened to the minister who was involved, nothing happened to the officers who were involved. But when this top man of that company went back to US, the US government, as per their law, they have taken action against him, and he had to face the wrath of the law. Just imagine that. And we think it will not happen to people in India. It's happening now. It has started. Accountability is something which is being talked about. ethics is something which is being talked about in a serious manner in organizations today. And architects, of course, we are in the same society. It applies to all of us. Conflict of interest situations arise very often in our architectural career as well. So it's not different. It's not something which is alien to us. No, we cannot claim any immunity from these situations that can develop with us. They do develop, especially you know, when you have stake, there are many times where people pick up stakes also in the structures that are created. There are a lot of conflict of interest situations that arise there between the professional requirement and the financial profits that are likely to accrue to. There are many occasions like that. Okay, suppliers, yes, with suppliers, of course, there are very many ethical problems. There are commissions, there are gifts and things like that, which are prohibited in the conduct rules. Of course, the 89 conduct rules mandate that nobody should accept gifts or concessions and commissions and things like that. But it happens. Now, how does it stop? If it stops, what will be the outcome? Can you understand that? That's a way of stopping fraud. Now, the companies and corporates in India are losing so much money because of frauds that they have pegged the salaries of the individuals much lower than what is desired to be there. Across the world, if you look at it, the salaries of the individual is much lower. Why? Because the companies cater for loss of finances through frauds. They already catered. It is all catered in this one. Okay, competitors, yes, with other architects, how we grab, how we beat the competition. Are we being ethical in the acts that we will be doing? This is what consumers, yes, who the clients, for them. Bad buyer and seller, of course, yes, how do we deal with them? These are all okay. Now, being legal always is not being ethical, and being ethical is not always illegal, and it's always not legal also. Okay, so ethics and law, there is a little difference. Okay, but what happens is you have to grow beyond the minimum specifications that are specified by the law if you want to be ethical. Law specifies lowest standard or acceptable behavior or conduct. It's the lowest standard. That means I am not expected to steal things that belong to others. Okay, whereas when it comes to ethics, it's much more than that. I am also required to see if I can hand over something which is dropped by someone. Of course, these days, Corona, we don't even, we're not supposed to touch anything. Even otherwise, the world has become so difficult that if you touch something, it may explode in your hand. That is a different issue altogether. I'm not catering for those, dangerous situations. Okay, so being legal may not be always being ethical. Please understand that. Okay, when it comes to values, these are abstract ideals that shape an individual's thinking and behavior. Okay, abstract ideals that shape an individual's, they are already built in us. They are there in us. Okay, whereas when it comes to instrumental values, certain way of behaving is appropriate in all situations. That means for every situation it suits, it meets all situations. Terminal values are ends. One is means, one is ends. The values are already there in us. Okay, they are individuals' thinking and behavior are shaped by them. Okay, and the means of doing things is instrumental values, and the ends that we achieve, okay, that's terminal values. Okay, now what is we have talked about values, the abstract ideals. Where do they result from? Generally, ordinarily, it's not that they cannot be changed or they are not they are not written by God the Almighty that nothing will change. No, everything can be changed. Okay, it can be changed with practice, it can be changed with conscious decision, it can be changed with considered change management that can be brought about. Okay, otherwise these result from religious preachings and discourses, religious thoughts that have been going from one generation to the other generation, the philosophy that is in the society and the philosophy that I adopt. It is not that if the society is good, I cannot be bad. That's how there are thieves. Whole society is not made of thieves, but there are still people who are stealing things. All diamond exporters are not illegal, not into illegal practice. But we know that a particular Modi has done that, and he is in trouble now. Okay, a particular Choksi has done that, he is in trouble now. All the people who have managed the IPL are not into any illegal wrongdoings. But yes, all people who have got airlines have not practiced illegal practices. But yes, there is a guy who has done that, and he's sitting in London and enjoying his days till he comes back to India and faces the law, and he will very soon. So the philosophy that he followed is different from the philosophy that is there in the society. Okay, he was also a member of parliament when it happened. All parliamentarians are not that kind. So what philosophy is prevailing in the society? What philosophy I am adopting? Okay. Similarly, there is a very famous saying. There is one family rather. The father was a drunkard. He would always beat his wife and children, and he was always taking illegal drugs and things like that. So two sons he had, and one son had gone on to become a minister. One son had gone on to become a don, a mafia king types. So a particular newspaper interviewed both of them. Both of them said, I became a minister because I have seen a very abusive and difficult father and parent childhood. So I wanted to be a good person. I have done this. Finally, I have become education minister. He is education minister. I think it just changed. Okay. Now the other one, mafia, also they interviewed. They said, my father, I have seen him beat people. I have seen him struggle for money. I've seen him struggle for drinks. I told myself that I will never struggle for drinks. And I have started this business and I'm making a huge money. I have drinks. I have things at my beck and call. Just see. Now, what is the philosophy? The same philosophy. What are the outcomes? Two extreme outcomes. Two extreme outcomes. One is the minister for that country, the other one is a mafia. That can happen. Family teachings, yes, definitely. In joint family settings, we had these things flowing in terms of stories, in terms of bedtime stories, in terms of sharing, in terms of passing on and being accommodative, at times adjusting to meet the others' requirements. There is a lot of give and take mutually, but that's not possible now because of the nuclear family. But still, what is being taught to the children, what is being passed on to the children, how it's being passed on to the children, these are all matter. So it's very important that we set the right precedents. Okay. The instrumental values, of course, rituals, polities, and good habits. These are the things that will impact. When it comes to ethics, what are the ethics? The study of moral obligation involving the distinction between right and wrong. Just remember this much: right and wrong. Ethics is about right and wrong, and professional ethics is about right and wrong at the workplace. That's it. How you actually decide what is right, what is wrong. These concepts are not new. We have had these in early writings also. Bhagavad Gita is full of them. The Bible has got a lot of things. The Quran has got a lot of good value as far as the ethics are concerned. Of course, many of these writings, they are misused now, they are abused now. That's a different issue. But otherwise, the ethics, personal level as well as the professional levels, they have been part, and they are ingrained into almost every society, the people. And in context of the Indian context, of course, we have had many of them, which give us how to conduct ourselves, how to behave in a particular environment, what is to be done, those kind of things. Okay. So that's what it is. And like Kautilya has elaborately gone about writing on various issues, and he said profits have to be byproducts of business. It should not be the very goal of business. Profits should not be the only goal. They should happen. They should, by the way, they should happen. That's what he preached and he followed. And how this ethics philosophy is spread is, it starts from family, because from the very early childhood, we all live in the family. We are part of the family, and from there, this society around us, whether we are while in the growing stages or subsequently in the school and other places, it's the society around us, it's the children around us, it's the teachers around us. These are the people, the family, of course, the mother and father, the siblings, they all help us in creating that philosophy in us, and what we will be following is determined by this also. Not that it will only determine. Organizations, definitely yes, whether at school or whether at work, whether it is in college, you are all architectural students in your own colleges. What kind of culture is there for the organization? SPA has a different culture. MIT Architectural School may have a different culture. So every organization has a culture of its own. It spreads. That's how, see, why IITs are rated very high as far as the engineering degree is concerned. It's because their culture, the culture of probing, culture of asking questions, culture of creating more research papers, culture of doing more applied technological development. That's their culture. Similarly, why SPA Delhi is on top of the architectural schools? Because the kind of work that they do in terms of projects is very highly rated projects. That actually gives an edge over others when the same candidate becomes an architect and he is working with someone. He brings more to the table. That's what it is. And a culture that we adopt is very important. Okay. The country, of course, the nation also has a culture. Every nation also has a culture. Okay. So, like for example, we were talking about China. China's the focus over a period of time, they have built a culture wherein they said, look, we must be the head of, at the top of manufacturing everything and anything, and they did it for so many years. They have been doing it. Okay. So likewise, India, what is their usual selling point, USP? We must know and spread it. Okay. Ethics shift from organization to the individuals, and individuals also at the lowest level to highest level, they also impact the organizational ethics at over a period of time. From the organization to individual, it happens faster because it can be imposed, it can be implemented, it can be instructed, it can be mandated. Whereas in case if it has to go from individual to the organization, it's by example. Okay. So there are many organizations where even the lowest level employee actually demonstrates exemplary ethical and cultural behavior processes. It's possible, and for them to percolate to others, it takes time. But whereas if an organization has an ethical culture as part of its mandate, its vision, then of course things will be different. They're documented, they're ingrained and imbibed over a period of time when it comes to the individual following them, and they are of course propagated from generation to generation, students to students. They have to be continuously moving. Okay. Vision, mission, objectives, and means we must have. Otherwise, the ethics will become very difficult to implement. Okay. Misconduct in organizations. What are the kinds of misconducts? I'll just briefly touch upon them. Now, these are the things that misrepresenting hours worked, employees lying in supervisor. Especially for architects, our work is many times counted on hour basis. These many hours. How many man hours have been put into this particular design? How many man? Because it's all abstract. But by the way, the clients most of the times have absolutely zero clue as far as architect's work is concerned. He only knows that, okay, you have to give a design. What kind of work goes behind creating the design, he doesn't even know. And who all are working? What are the people who are working and supporting this particular architect in creating a particular design? Whether it is electricians, whether it is plumbers, whether it is the masons, whether it is carpenters, all those people become part of it because the planning has to include all of them also. It is not that suddenly one night an architect will get up in the early morning after a good sleep and suddenly the drawing is ready. No, it doesn't happen like that. Now it's all counted in terms of man hours. Are we reflecting the correct man hours? Are we assessing the work requirement in a proper manner? And are we charging correctly? Employees lying to supervisors. Many times you send someone to the site, they will say on site and they will go to mall. and enjoy. So those kind of things also happen. Management lying to employees and customers because of sometimes they don't give salary intentionally and they say no, we are finding it difficult. To the public, Satyam Computers is an example where it has the books of accounts have been fudged over a period of time at the corporate level, and then it went bust. Otherwise, what institutions Satyam has created? Fantastic institutions he has created, but they have gone bust. Okay. Similarly, misuse of organization assets. S-Bank is an example we have discussed. Lying on reports, testifying record. Sexual harassment at workplace, very serious issue. Okay. Stealing and theft of copyrights, IPR. All these things are very serious issues again. Accepting or giving bribes, kickbacks, withholding needed information from employees, customers, and vendors in public. Okay. Now, what are the common causes? These are the common causes: pressure, fear, greed, convenience. These are the things that cause people to actually indulge in unethical practices. Now, also there are some more things like bosses' directives, and everyone, the people want to please the boss always. Meeting overly aggressive business financial objectives, especially if you are in marketing for an architectural firm, you promise moon and come back. Obviously, now the firm had to meet that promise, no? So that's where it happens. Helping the organization survive, we have to do that. Okay, scheduled pressures, if we have to meet, that's also creating a lot of unethical practices. If we are not team player, it becomes very difficult. So being team player is essential. Realizing that others do it, resisting competitive threats, advancing own career over others' requirement or the organizational requirement. That's what ethical dilemmas under stress. Dealing with complex issues, how do we take decisions? This is what it is about, ethical dilemmas. If you are able to discern this, the under stress, what decision we have to take and what are the complex issues that are likely to impact us, then you have succeeded. Okay. This is a myth. Ethics can't be managed is a myth. We can manage. Okay. Being legal is being ethical. We have discussed this already. Manage ethics has little practical relevance. No, it has a lot of practical elements, and sustainability depends on this. Okay. Improves society, maintains a moral course in turbulent times, cultivates employees teamwork, productivity, moral development. This we have already touched upon. Okay. For the establishing value for quality management, strategic planning, diversity, sustainability basically is always dependent on this. Promote strong public image, branding. It happens. It's the right thing to do. Yes, that's where you follow that. Okay. Some tips for the organizations. The PPT will be shared. Create open lines of communication. Treat ethics as a process. Communicate code and bake it into culture. Break it, not bake it. Develop a code of ethics. Set good examples. This is what is essential. Educate employees. Pass it down. Let it flow down. Value forgiveness. It's very essential because people do mistakes. Don't unnecessarily go overboard in punishing them. Establish personal values. Be aware of ethical events. Develop critical thinking techniques. These are all for the individuals. Be reflective. Very essential. Reflect on what you have done. Make it a priority every day. Now, what Clean Exit can do, we have collaborated. This Clean Exit is a joint initiative between All India Council for Technical Education and ISAC as part of our MOU to train 1 lakh students in professional ethics at workplace. 1 lakh. And this is the reason. Every wrong hire costs 26 times the candidate's package to the company. Trust me, I'm not saying this. Times has sent this is a very authentic information after a survey. 26 times the package is the cost to the company when they hire a wrong person. So are you the one? And these are the problems. Internal frauds, very high, 45%. Okay, external frauds. These are the statistics. Just look at this: bribery, corruption, money laundering, sanctions and tariffs, IP theft. Okay, leaks. This is very serious issue. You can just have a look at these things. Okay, what do? We do all these things to make sure that people benefit and companies benefit. Okay, no, just 1 second. Okay, this is certification in professional ethics at workplace plus. That includes training and certification. AICTE NEET 2.0 approved training, and this is only certification if you think that you are ethically up there then you can straight away go for an examination and certification directly. This costs 300 rupees, this costs 2,500 rupees. AICTE approved programs these are. Career protection plan, we offer career protection plan for students who have to mandatorily do the internships and they have to work with other architectural firms during their training and during their education degree. This is available, career protection plan, to protect their interests, students' interests. Interview to join rating, people these days, they appear 10 interviews at the same time and they keep rotating. This is a practice that is causing the job industry collapse. In fact, the salaries are very low in India because of this. Okay, then fidelity guarantee, if a person is employed by someone and he steals some equipment or does not return the equipment or does not return the laptop, does not return the mobile phone given to him from the company, that time we give fidelity guarantee. This is given by a government insurance company, Oriental Insurance Company. Ratings, we have both ratings from the employee to the company and company to the employee. 360-degree rating is there. Exit talk, when people are leaving the companies, especially smaller companies. All the architectural firms are small firms only. They don't have dedicated HR, they don't have dedicated specialists to deal with the HR issues. So we perform that as a third party. What are the things that we solve? Fake resumes we reduce, exit on short notice we prevent, violating company policies, it comes down through our training and certification and rating. Fake experience letters we prevent, stealing company data, we generally it doesn't happen. Harassing fellow employees, posting negatively on social, very serious issue this is. Okay, refusing to return company assets, we have discussed already. Fake trainings and skills that are off. Okay, obviously no one will prefer a dishonest workforce. That's what it is. And training, here is a certification that this kind of certificate is given by us to the people who undergo our certification there. Okay, I think I'm done. The time also is up. I think Raja Singh, thank you very much for the time, and any questions I'm ready to take on.
Right. Thank you, sir. It was, very enlightening. You spoke about from the architect's point of view, and you made sure that everything was so much related to what an architect has to deal with, what architectural firms have to deal with, and what the whole fraternity of architecture has to deal with. So really, thank you so much for that. Before we end the conversation, I request people, if they have any questions, they can ask. But before people ask questions, I have a simple question to ask you, sir. What happens when people have to choose between livelihood and taking unethical decisions? So what is the answer to that, sir?
So that's what I have mentioned. The environment can determine whether a decision is ethical or not. In the situation in which you are, if you have to die, do you have any other option? That is the question. And people take the call depending on that. But what happens is death, for example, a soldier, he faces bullet. Does he run away? He doesn't run away. The environment, the environment in which he has grown. Okay. Similarly, you are talking about livelihood. Okay. For example, we talk about people who have had to migrate during the corona pandemic. En route, did they steal? Most of them did not indulge in stealing. But there are some who have taken the call to steal things en route. They have demolished, they have destroyed things. That has happened. But everyone has not done that. Everyone has not done that. No, what is happening in essence, Raja, is that if those things become part of our thinking, everyone en route will take precautions to make sure that these people are not taken care. As an end result, even the good Samaritans will not come forward, like many we have seen. Many people have put those nice stalls across and they're given food, they have given water. People have gone from Maharashtra to Bihar to Assam, where all they have gone. So many people have walked also. How they have been able to sustain? There are good people who have come forward and they have fed the food and water and things like that. Now that will stop if everyone starts looting. What will they do? Those people, instead of feeding them freely, they will cater to the security measures. So security companies will be put everywhere. There will be henchmen, there will be security guards. So the money that is supposed to be going to feed these people will go into the security guard system. So sustainability is not there. Now you understand? Yes, I agree with you. There is a dilemma. I agree with you. Environment also finally, obviously, the death is the final thing. I told you, soldier faces the bullet. He says, no, I will not leave. I will not run away. Come what may, I'll face the bullet. And we have so many cases like that. And they survived. They survived with grit. I hope I have answered your question.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, sir. I'm looking for some more questions. There, any
Yes, sir.
questions?
Yes, yes.
Anybody wants to
I
ask
do
any
have.
questions? Hello? Hello?
हाँ सर,
Yes, yes.
आवाज आ रही है?
हाँ, प्लीज अपना नाम बताएं, प्लीज अपना.
जी, मेरा नाम वैभव घोड़के है
जी,
and
प्लीज
I
आस्क
have
योर क्वेश्चन.
attended from. Okay. So, मेरा पहला सवाल है सर, एक अभी रिसेंटली इंस्टा पे भी एक पोस्ट था जो रिसेंट हमारे सुप्रीम कोर्ट के जो क्या बोलते हैं उसको, क्या बोलते हैं, सर न्यायाधीश जो है उनका स्टेटमेंट था कि हमारी जो सिस्टम है, लॉ सिस्टम या फिर जो इन टर्म्स ऑफ लॉ, ओके, तो लॉ की जो सिस्टम है वो जो ब्रिटिशर्स ने फॉर कीपिंग देयर स्लेव्स और जो गुलामी के लिए उन्होंने डिफाइन की थी, डिजाइन की थी, वैसे ही चल रही है. एंड इट इज नॉट यूजफुल फॉर द what we can say independent nation to stand as a or and proceed or grow as a independent nation. एंड इसके ही कंपैरिजन में जो कुछ भी हमारे यहाँ पे ग्रेट एम्परर्स हुए हैं लाइक शिवाजी महाराज, अकबर, तो उनके भी इसमें हर एक है कि जो उन्होंने ये जो अनएथिकल बिहेवियर था उसके लिए दे हैव वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग डिसीजंस, और जो जो अनह्यूमन या फिर जो क्या बोलते हैं मानवतावादी जिसको नहीं बोल सकते, ऐसे भी कुछ उनके इसमें थे. सो दैट इज माय व्हाई दिस इज माय फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन. दूसरा एक सवाल और एक है, गार्डियन नाम का एक चैनल है, उनके इंस्टा पेज पे रिसेंटली दो महिला खिलाड़ू है यूएस के, तो उनका भी एक ये आया था कि उन्होंने भी उनके जो हेल्थ चेकअप है उसमें भी कुछ मिसकंडक्ट एंड ये हो रहा है. तो हम लोग डेवलप्ड कंट्री इन टर्म्स ऑफ क्या बोलते हैं जिसको, इन टर्म्स ऑफ लीगल एंड एवरी एस्पेक्ट एवरी फ्रंट पे डेवलप्ड कंट्री हम लोग यूएस को जब देखते हैं या फिर अमेरिका को देखते हैं, एफबीआई उनकी एजेंसी है, ऐसे स्ट्रॉन्ग सिस्टम सर्विस होने के बाद भी वहां पे ऐसे हरकतें या फिर ऐसे अनएथिकल चीजें क्यों होती है? सो दीज आर माय टू क्वेश्चंस. थैंक यू सर.
Thank you, Vaibhav. You are from which college, Vaibhav? What do you do?
I am from Anantrao Power College of Architecture, Pune.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Vaibhav. First question, as far as our laws are concerned, yes, to a large extent, the anguish expressed by the Honorable Justice is in place to a large extent. But please understand, हाल में भारत सरकार ने हजारों ऐसे laws, acts निकाल दिए. They have removed from the statute book. They have removed thousands of acts from the statute books of India in the last 3, 4, 5 years. Now, how is it possible? Relevancy. One is time, the other one is culturally and to the today's context, whether these acts are relevant or not. They have done that. They have removed a large number of acts from the statute book. Okay, so how now the law can be made contemporary and contextualized to the times that we live in? The Supreme Court and the higher courts also have role, and they are also performing their role. Many times it's happening, like for example the IT law. There was a section 66A, where Shreya Singhal matter, our IT minister, the present IT state minister Rajiv Chandrasekhar himself is one of the PIL applicants. So there the powers given to the government to arrest anyone when it is felt that they said something offending. Now, what is offending? It is not defining. It's not possible to be defining. So that kind of huge powers, if they are given, Supreme Court said nothing doing. So that can happen. Similarly, if there is an old law which is not in tune with the times, if the Supreme Court is given powers under the Constitution, it's using the powers many times, and government also is reviewing and bringing the laws in tune with the times. So it's a continuous process. It's happening. It's not that it is not happening, but I agree there are laws which are, there are provisions from 1872 acts and all that. We have Telegraph Act, which is very, very old. Some of the provisions of Telegraph Act pre-independence, they are all still there. The Official Secret Act, it is still 1923. It is still valid and it is applicable. It is applied despite we having the RTI Act now. From 2005, we have been having the RTI Act, but again, we still have the government servant is not supposed to speak his say anything, divulge any information. But RTI Act says no, you will give this. It's a conflict, direct conflict that's happening. So changes are happening. Maybe they are slow. And Supreme Court judge, if he said so, it is an anguish that he has expressed. They are also doing their bit in terms of changing things. Okay, that is part one. Now, the part two of your question, our second question is, strong institutions like FBI and all, they are all not preventive. Not preventive. When I say not preventive, they are not in a position to prevent unethical activities. Now, how can you prevent unethical activities? There is absolute capitalism there, and there is absolute free for all as far as money earning is concerned there. Unethical practices will be there definitely. FBI and things like that will investigate when something goes wrong. That is where the culture matters. That's where the ethics, the foundation of ethics matter. You mentioned about Shivaji. Of course, the foundation on which his rule was, it's on a foundation of absolutely fantastic ethical foundation. That's where it was easy. Ram Raj, we say. What is Ram Raj? The ethics being given priority over capitalism, over money, over business processes. Ethics, utmost priority. But when it came to Krishna's time, he said, you can do small little things, you can take aberrations here and there. Times have changed. And when we are in Kali Yuga, obviously we are in a different level altogether. But at every stage, our foundation should be strong. The base should be strong. That's where we are saying, for some reason, the students were not taught ethics. Today, the government has brought in new education policy 2020. In that, they said ethics have to be taught. All the colleges, schools are teaching ethics. By the way, our institution, the Clean Exit, we are helping a lot of colleges create ethics clubs in their colleges. We have a collaboration where through that we can actually create ethics clubs in the colleges. Your institution wants ethics club for your college, we are ready to help you to create the ethics club to be managed by you. Your own institution can manage. So it's happening. So things are changing slowly, and we are the AICTE rightly said, start with this one. AICTE has compelled us to give this ethics training free of cost to 14 lakh people. 14 lakh people. All of you can actually derive benefit out of it and go to the AICTE site, register, or you come to the Clean Exit site and register, take free education on ethics, get certified also. Certification of course costs 300 rupees only 300 rupees. So you can do that. See, what happens is you are orienting yourself. I have given a quote. Okay, what it says is, I will not be part to it. I will not be party to it. Have you decided not to be party to it? Now, for that, are you equipped? To be equipped, we are ready to support you and make you go through this ethics training free of cost. Of course, till 2022 March only it will be free. After that, it will be charged, because our agreement is for till then only. After that, we said no, we will not be able to, because sometimes, like Mrs. Sudha Murthy has told many times, openly she says wherever she goes, don't give anything free, especially learning. If something is given free, nobody will value. That's also there. So, are you equipped to be ethical at your workplace? Come, we will equip you if you wish. Okay, and FBI and National Investigation Agency cannot prevent it. They come into act after something has gone wrong. They can be deterrents. They cannot be preventive. Who can prevent? You, I, together we. And I am ready to do my bit. Are you, Vaibhav, ready to do your bit? Come together, let's clap after shaking hand. Okay.
Right. Thank you so much. Vaibhav, is your question answered?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Sir.
Thank you, sir. And with that, there are more questions. I have shared on the chat the website cleanexit.org and the email on which you can contact our speaker, Group Captain Naidu. It's support@cleanexit.org. I really, really thank all of you who have come and joined. And I have to thank our speaker, Group Captain Anand Naidu, sir, for taking time out and addressing this architectural fraternity. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. It has been a pleasure, Raja, and my gratitude to the SPA for organizing this, and of course to you and Professor Dr. Devan also. Without you both, it couldn't have happened, and of course the participants. Thank you all. Thank you for sparing your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.